means I'm in Mexico to a degree, but it's not that big of a name in Mexico right now. It was at one point. It's still there. There's a conscious knowing. It's been around for 30 years, and it's part of the culture. But in the United States, it's not so. I mean, again, like down the line, it wouldn't surprise me because unless you have a separate TV show that you're marketing and making money selling, there's no point in it. If you can do that and make money selling it, then maybe they'll keep the brand. But they didn't keep NXT UK. They still haven't done NXT Europe. So again, you don't know for sure. I think there's a million things. I think in their minds, no, they don't think that now. But 2 years from now, they may think that. As far as they're doing that, they haven't released the London show, which was like my favorite one, was the second London. So my impression is that it's going to be one of those things where you have to be there, because it's not going to be released otherwise. So that's the decision, I think.
Yeah, I mean, but there is a reason why they are recorded, just in case if you need to. Okay, I have one more WrestleMania specific thing, and then we'll get to a couple questions that we have, and then if we can hit a couple other topics. So I sensed, being in Vegas last weekend, and I don't know if you sensed this as well, but some of the build up to the show, you heard Vince McMahon and Donald Trump's name thrown out. Mm-hmm. They did a roast, which there has been audio leaked from that roast. And,
they sure did not want that.
They did not want it. I don't know how they didn't expect it to happen, by the way, because everything sort of gets out.
Everything always gets out, yeah.
And then you had Paul Heyman doing like a sort of 90s style shock jock kind of thing on Pat McAfee, where he's making off-color jokes, and he's bringing up things that that ESPN did not want him to bring up, particularly
Shannon
Sharp.
Yeah.
I just sense that there was like a little bit of like how much negativity are we going to get out of this kind of stuff? And what does that say about our audience? Like the Trump stuff was kind of weird because I thought, well, maybe they're trying to kind of prepare us for him to be there. And maybe they were doing their own due diligence, like let's make sure that he knows that we like him and that we want him to be here. But then the Vince stuff at the same time was almost forced upon the fans to hear that. Like it wasn't like there was, I guess maybe Triple H's speech was you probably had to say something. But other than that, like it just felt like they were testing the waters on some stuff.
They may have been, yeah. So,
but what did you think about the Heyman thing? Was that kind of...
It's Paul Heyman. That's what, it's like Paul Heyman put in that situation is going to try to do something to get people to talk about him, whether it's good or bad, right or wrong, good strategy, bad strategy. He will try to get people to talk about it. That is his strategy. So it didn't surprise me at all. I don't know if Pat knew. I'm sure ESPN wasn't thrilled. I looked at the YouTube numbers and Paul's were like way higher than Dwayne's. So way higher than Dwayne's. I mean, I think so it's kind of like for what he was looking for. I think he succeeded in his own mind based on what he was attempting to do. A lot of people got really mad at it. He was looking for that. Was it in good taste, or whatever? I don't know. I mean, the roast stuff wasn't good taste, but it's a roast. You know what I mean? It's like when it came to the roast, like I can tell you, I mean, I've read all the different things. I was not going to be offended by anything said at a roast because it's a roast with, and that's the deal. It's going to be tasteless.
But you knew who the targets were going to be for sure.
So some of them, not all of them, but it doesn't matter. It's like that's just the thing is the people going to the roast, they knew it was going to be it's going to be tasteless, and it's also people who aren't really comedians trying to be comedians. So that makes it bad too. And Tony, I saw Tony Hinchcliffe. I mean, he was on Raw for whatever it was, 15 minutes, and I was like, oh boy, this is he was just boring. So it's like, okay, he's boring, he ain't telling me at all. So the only thing he can do is go in the gutter. So that's the deal.
So we have a question based off of our conversation when we actually first got to Vegas around the Nick Khan and on Bill Simmons. So from Trust the Process, Nick Khan mentioned interest in AEW talent once contracts expire. Vaquer, Mariah used AEW as a stepping stone for WWE, even taking less. What can AEW do to avoid minor league stigma plus being a perennial stepping stone for young talent?
They need to get really hot and exciting and have an atmosphere where talent wants to be there, like originally, as opposed to everybody wanting, or many people wanting to go to WWE as the ultimate goal. And it's hard because until they're out there, drawing similar to WWE, which is going to be hard. Even though they did do that for a couple years, it's going to be hard. It's just the thing. I mean, number one, you've got the whole generation of people who grew up on it, and so many of the people. The thing is like before, the same thing happened with WCW and with Crockett. It really did, because before though, like in the 80s and into the 90s, the key is that they went in search of more money, and now, so I think that like from a AEW Tony Khan standpoint, it's like, I mean, they're never going to pay the percentage of their, the percentage of their revenue to talent like AEW will. Number one, AEW is private, they're public. Number two, like they have people who are only interested in profits, and Tony is interested in profits, but it's like as weird as this sounds, because every wrestler is interested in profits. I don't know that I've ever seen, and again, you can go in and it really hit me, the Dean Rasmussen thing, right? It's kind of like this guy. I mean, he his childhood dream was to book a wrestling company and put on great matches because that's what he loved, and he turned a profit doing that. So there's nothing wrong with it. He's great. He's living his dream, making money, working his ass off, but he's happy to do it. But the thing is like. With so much of the talent, it's like he can offer them the same or more money. Like Penta and Phoenix, like I believe pretty strongly that he was going to offer them more money. He didn't even want to listen because people swayed him to go, and they themselves just there was lots of things happen. Penta. I mean, it's funny because Penta felt so disrespected by the fact that he was there for all those years, and then they started bringing the CMLL talent. He wasn't allowed to appear on those TV shows the CMLL talent was, so he felt disrespected. But it's a political thing that Tony ended up working out, and they ended up going to Arena Mexico through AEW, and they ended up working that one great match on the pay-per-view, with Mystico and everything, and so it's like it didn't matter. They had their thing, and also timing wise, it was probably the best thing for them. They went about as far as they were going to go there, and WWE's a new place. We'll see in a year how it all goes back down, but so I think that the tough thing is that he can bid more, and they all can. Like, look, TNA offered Jordan Grace more money than WWE did, and they couldn't treat her better, but she wanted to go to WWE because it's the place to go. And even NXT, she was up in NXT, she wanted to go. Stephanie Vaquer, she was offered more money. I'm certain that Tony Khan would have offered the same for Mariah May. Kind of he created her character and everything like that. And it's like, but to her, AEW is just a stepping stone. Make some fame now. WWE, now you can go to WWE, and she may not even do as well. Maybe she will. We don't know. You never know. Some people work there, and some people don't. And sometimes it looks great, and then but it doesn't turn out. And sometimes it does. But that's a real hard thing because you have to stop it. You got to be as popular. But you also have, instead of ex-jocks who just went into pro wrestling because it was a way to extend their high school years and live the high school life, and make some money doing fake fights. The people now, your best wrestlers, were people who grew up watching, and the people who grew up were not watching. They were not watching Ric Flair, and they were not watching WCW anymore, or Georgia Championship Wrestling. They were watching TNA, which they knew was secondary, and WWE, which was the major leagues. So for them, that's the dream, is WWE. That's just the dream, and it's something that AEW is going to have to deal with. That's all.
All right, Trust the Process also has one more question. Unlike last year, Tony Khan no-sold all shots from WWE last week. Instead, he kept focus on promoting AEW. Do you think it was an intentional change of strategy?
Yes, I do believe that. It's just kind of like, I think that, it's hard to say from my perspective because the people around me are different. But I got the impression, and some of it comes from online, some of it comes from people talk to me. But I got the impression that the more the people at WWE talked, especially Paul Beck, they did themselves less favors, and it's almost like, instead of going and attacking them and getting in the mud with them, it was kind of like, let's rope it open or put on a better product or something. I don't know. I think that he's gotten, I don't know, again, I don't think he's changed so much as I think he's very focused on the product right now. And it's funny because, like the Dynamite show from a week ago Wednesday, it's one of the best Dynamites they ever did. And they come back this week and they do, low rating, and it's live, live on the West Coast, which hurts. And they had, they had 2 NBA games and an NHL game, all playoffs. So, there's reasons it was going to go down, but it went down more than, it's like it went down more than it should have. Big Bang Theory's on the same station. They always beat Big Bang Theory. They did not beat Big Bang Theory this week. For only the second time since they've gone on TBS, they didn't beat Big Bang Theory. So it was, putting on these great shows, they still, for whatever anyone said, it was WrestleMania week. All focus was on WrestleMania, and they are the secondary brand, and it was very clear this week. And you can go put on Will Ospreay and Takeshita, and it'll give you a bump in the ratings and this and that. But at the end of the day, it's one of those things. When the week was over, nobody was talking about Will Ospreay and Takeshita. They really weren't, and you couldn't have a better television match. They weren't talking about Nick Wayne and Commander. Unbelievable match. If this was a match that took place in the 80s, people would be talking about it for 6 months. Like a match like that. Let alone that Young Bucks match on Wednesday night. It's like people see so much great wrestling. It's ridiculous. Like when I was doing this last night, and I watched the Arena Mexico main event, and we had 2 great matches at WrestleMania. We've had so many great matches on AEW television. We have these, the Dragon Gate match and the Zack Sabre Gresham match, and then we had the Arena Mexico main event from last Friday. It's like this is all in a week, and it's like it doesn't. When you get so much, we're so beyond spoiled because it doesn't resonate anymore because it's like we're at the point of the boundaries of what human beings can do. Number one, and number two, there's so many of them that are at that level now that we see it all the time, and it's not even. Unless it's like Kenny Omega and Bryan Danielson, or Will Ospreay and Kenny Omega, it's almost like, we've seen it. You know what I mean? It's like it takes so much to get that going. It's that's a hard thing. But it's like it's cool. It's cool we get so much great wrestling. It really is. But great wrestling itself has never been a defining factor in how a company does, unless you're a monopoly company, which at that point it can make a difference. But it's as far as like the AEW stuff goes, like watching it feels like it should be on a roll. And then the crowd in New Orleans, very loud and really exciting, but the number of people there was not good.
And I saw your numbers about the advances not changing really at all.
Not for AEW, no. They seem to show life when they're on the West Coast, but now it's back to where it was. I think that, but with AEW, one of the things is that like the cities that they do the best in, are your bigger cities and not in the South. And that's how it is. And New Orleans is in the South. So there you go. And they're going like I remember when I would look at their pay-per-view numbers compared. I would get the state-by-state pay-per-view numbers. We had a story in the Observer on it, and there were states where TNA and WWE. Even though AEW is the king on pay-per-view because WWE just, everything's on Peacock, and TNA is much lower than AEW. But there were states where, WWE and TNA were shockingly competitive, and others where AEW just blows them out of the water. And they're very much your New Yorks and your Pennsylvanias and your Californias and things like that. And when you get to your Iowas and your Dakotas and your Louisianas and Alabamas and stuff, those just aren't good markets for AEW.
Which is interesting because it's not like WWE goes to those markets.
No, they're not going to do live shows in most of those markets very often now because they don't do house shows. Yeah, but those are the places where whatever you can make your own conclusions as to what. I mean, the deal is that the lower the average income, the less likely you're going to be an AEW fan. And people hate when I say that, but the stats bring it. The stats are there. So it's just what it is. And so they're probably better off touring in other places, but they were in New Orleans, and but it's still one of those things. It's like unless they do pay-per-view, they're really not drawing well. And in some places they're going to smaller buildings, but like they got that Detroit thing, the 2 days in Detroit. It's like that's a city they don't hit that often, and it's a city they've drawn very well in. And they went instead of going to the big building where they drew well, they decided part of the strategy is let's go to these smaller, unique buildings. And in some cases it works. Boston worked, Sacramento worked, but Detroit. It's like I look at those. It's like one of the reasons that I was so adamant last year is just like go to 2,000 seat buildings and you go there and you sell out as soon as you put tickets on sale because everyone knows there's only 2,000 seats.